He's Peter King from Sports Illustrated, a must-read Monday morning quarterback at SI.com. Pete joins us now. Hi, Pete.
Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm surprised at the reaction of this trade with the Jets that, from Jets' perspective, they're surprised the deal happened with Revis. We sort of knew this was going to happen, didn't we?
We knew it was going to happen. I think there's a lot of reasons why people are surprised / upset. If you're a Jets fan, it's now really coming home to roost that you're in the midst of a rebuilding program, and they don't want the guy who they view as a selfish player anymore around, which is how I think a lot of people in the organization viewed Revis. But, the seeds of this were sown in 2010 when they wrote a contract that, when a guy makes $32 million in the first 2 years, and then he's going to make $6 million, in the year after that, and you basically say, in essence, to the guy, okay, that you probably can talk your way out of here, which I think Revis and his agents knew. Then he was able to do that, and on the Bucs side, you get a guy without any guaranteed money, and the biggest risk you have in here, and it is a big risk, the 13th pick in the draft, even a draft that is mediocre at the top like this one, that's a tough thing to do, but I think it's a very, very good risk and a calculated risk by the Bucs.
Yeah, I understand both sides of it. It's hard to say that it's a win-win because I want to see what the Jets do with those draft picks there, but I think the hard part here is if you're Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez, that it seems like a transitional year that you're going to be sort of rebuilding, but in their minds, it's pretty tough to go from the AFC title game a couple of years ago to a rebuilding process here.
Right, but if you're Mark Sanchez, to me, the last thing on your mind should be anybody else. You've stunk for the last couple of years. If you don't play well, you're going to be somebody's third-string quarterback in 2014. So, Mark Sanchez shouldn't care if they trade 9 guys on defense. Doesn't matter. He's just got to play better. And if he plays well and they're 2-14, he's going to be fine. But as far as Rex goes, look, when Rex got the head coaching job, I'll never forget the story that Mike Tannenbaum, the general manager, said when we were talking about, dealing with Rex, coaching with Rex, or, having Rex as the coach, that Ozzie Newsome, the general manager of the Ravens, where Rex came from, basically said Rex is the kind of guy who, if he's got 4 good corners, he'll want you to draft a 5th. There's absolutely no way, no matter how Rex sugarcoated it last night, he was a great team player on a very awkward conference call that the Jets had. There's absolutely no way that Rex does anything but vomit at the trade of Darrelle Revis.
I know that the Jets and Buccaneers were going to play each other, given the schedule, but I always view the schedule maker with the NFL as having a sense of humor. Okay, so we have Buccaneers-Jets week 1. Whether this deal went down or not, it was still going to be interesting because Revis would be playing against the team that tried to trade for him. Now He's going to be playing for the Buccaneers. So do you think this week 1 matchup was done with this in mind?
Yes. No question in my mind. Howard Katz, who does the schedule with Mike North and a couple other guys in the league, they all knew a month ago, we all knew a month ago, that this was going to happen. I remember coming out of the league meetings, which ended almost exactly a month ago. Maybe closer to 5 weeks ago, but I will never forget leaving there that day and having a long conversation with 2 very high-ranking club officials in the NFL that basically said, you ought to write the story right now. It is an absolute rock-solid guarantee. Woody Johnson's not going to let Idzik sign Revis. He's done. There's only one team in the league that has any interest in Darrelle Revis. It's Tampa. You got to write that he's going there, which I basically did, that it was just a matter of time. And so the league knows that, and the league says, this is going to be one of the most anticipated games of a great first weekend, and it's always a fun first weekend.
He's Peter King from Sports Illustrated, also Football Night in America, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. I saw where ESPN and the NFL Network are not going to allow their insiders to tweet during the draft if they find out any information of who's
Dan, you know what? I'm going to just tell you this about that, which is all that is well and good, okay? Last year, I don't usually go to Radio City for the draft. I usually am with a team, but last year I was following Ryan Tannehill for a story for Sports Illustrated. So I was there the first day, then tailed him to Miami the second day. You don't understand that when you're at Radio City, and particularly when you have other people online tweeting and or commenting on the draft choices, and the picks, when they get called into the league, you know, people around the league can hear it before Roger Goodell steps to the microphone. And last year, the owner of the Seahawks, Paul Allen, was tweeting out a few of these before it happened. Now, they better get reporter Paul Allen on board. He might, you know, he might be more dangerous than Schefter and Mortensen, you know, and Ian Rappaport on this first thing. But you know, the NFL, if they want not to have these things tweeted out, they're going to have to put a lasso around the security when picks are actually called into New York.
What's your philosophy on this? What will you do if you found out? Would you tweet?
Probably so, and I did last year a few of them because I just think you're watching the draft in real time. If you don't want to know who the picks are, then don't look at Twitter in the first round.
Yeah, I think that this is almost a made-for-TV show, but I'm paying all this money to these insiders. That's why we listen to them. That's why they're put up on a pedestal by the NFL Network and the mothership. To take their legs out from underneath them, I think it's counterproductive. These guys work hard to get relationships here to tell us it's about breaking news.
Yeah, but I think when you work for a network that has a contract with the NFL or is the NFL's home network, I think the NFL, and I have no idea if they did this, I think the NFL, especially with NFL Network, has the right to tell them we don't want you to do that, and you've got to do it. If you work for them, if you take a paycheck that's signed by Roger Goodell, you got to do what he says. And I think if you're ESPN and you want to be a good broadcast partner with the league, and the league doesn't want you to tip the picks 30 to 45 seconds before they're made, I think this is a small price to pay for peace with the NFL. I don't like it, and if I found out, I don't work for the NFL. I'd tweet it.
The team that's the most interesting on the first night of the draft is who, in your opinion?
Probably the Jets, just because I think everybody now says whoever the two picks they pick have got to come in, play right away, and be cornerstone guys for the next 5 years. It's probably not going to be for Rex Ryan for those 5 years, but it's got to be two cornerstone players. So you've got to take players. And I'll give you one for example. I mean, you've got to take a player like, let's say, D. Milner or Xavier Rhodes, two corners. I think that one of these picks will certainly be a cornerback. But you've got to take a corner to try to replace Revis and to try to give you a fighting chance, against the really good throwing teams on your schedule, particularly Tom Brady. And I think that everybody's going to be looking at the Jets to basically say which one of these guys, and both those guys, Milner and Rhodes, have played in big games. Rhodes from South Florida, he's got a big chip on his shoulder. I mean, they'll be able to handle pressure like that, but that's who they're going to need to pick in the first round.
Huge bet on this. Manti Te'o. McLovin says Manti Te'o goes in the second round.
No, I think he's going to go in the first round. Although, he might be right, but I believe he's going to go in the first round because there are too many teams, Minnesota being the first, Baltimore has some interest, and there's too many teams low in the first round who would consider Manti Te'o a bargain, I think, if they could get him at, somewhere between 25 and 32.
Yeah, McLovin, what's the problem?
So you're saying there's a chance he'll fall?
There's a chance he'll fall. Andrew, there's a chance he'll fall because there's a chance. I've never, look, this will be the 30th NFL draft that I've covered. My first one, 1984, beat guy with the Cincinnati Bengals, Boomer's year. And the one thing about this draft that is incredibly unique is all of the new people pulling the trigger at the top of the draft. Jacksonville with David Caldwell, number 2. Number 1, John Dorsey, even though Andy Reid is going to be the guy who's going to have a bigger voice. And look at all the guys up and down the top of the round, new general managers, new franchise czars, and all of them have basically taken the vow that those Cardinals took when they went into the Sistine Chapel. We know nothing, we say nothing, we reveal nothing. So it's been a pretty difficult last couple of weeks if you want to try to find out anything at the top of the round.
Always great, Peter. We'll see you later in the week. Thanks, Pete.
Take care, Dan. Thank you.
All right, Peter King from Sports Illustrated, also Monday Morning Quarterback, SI.com.